Well, we are back. You got a little taste from my wife. We were offered this fantastic opportunity because of you folks, and we want to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts. What you sent us to was an absolutely life-changing experience. Pastor Meagard, you may recall, he did something similar. He went and did a tour of Israel and Egypt and brought back wonderful pictures of his trip. And when we were approached and said that we were given this anniversary gift, I knew that my wife, from early on in her life, wanted to do an archaeological dig. And I said, could we do a dig instead of a tour? And I wish you could have saw Chris's face. It was like, why would you want to dig in dirt instead of going on a tour? And they said, sure. Well, we had this fire kind of burning within us because, 5 or 6 years ago, we were at an LCMC convention down in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And when you have a convention, you spend time in prayer and praise, and you also have breakout sessions. And one of the breakout sessions was led by Dr. Stephen Collins, who is a professor at Trinity University Southwest down in Albuquerque. And he led 2 breakout sessions. Sherry went to the first one. I can't remember what I went to. And at coffee time, she came to me and said, you have got to hear this guy. And so she went back to hear him a second time, and I went. And what I heard told by this professor just absolutely blew me away. Dr. Collins has been digging in Jordan for the last 5 years. This was the 5th season. And they dig at a place called Tel El Hammam. Now, a tel is just a big hill that appears out of nowhere in a valley region. And when you look at it, you go, that doesn't look like a normal hill because everything is just too uniform. Everything is just too precise. And literally what happens that forms a tel is a city starts out and then an earthquake or something happens and then they smooth everything out and then they build a new city on top of that and a new city on top of that and eventually it gets pretty high and pretty soon they figure out that if they put 35-degree glacier walls on this mound of dirt, it's going to be really difficult for enemy armies to come and invade the city. He digs at Tel El Hammam. I can see by your eyes, you're all just thoroughly impressed so far. Well, he believes that Tel El Hammam is the city of Sodom. Now, Tel El Hammam is on the north end of the Dead Sea. It's in the Wadi area where the Jordan River comes down and kind of fingers out before it goes into the Dead Sea. Most scholars believe that it is on the southern end of the Dead Sea. As a matter of fact, in most Bible maps, and I checked my Bible map just to make sure, it places Sodom at the southern end of the Dead Sea, but it usually has a question mark behind Sodom, or in my case it says possible location of Sodom. So he thinks Sodom's to the north, not the south. I can tell you're all just riveted in your seats right now by this revelation. Why is any of this important? Why is going over to Jordan and digging in dirt important? As I was going over there, I knew that I would be coming back and I would be preaching to you guys. And I knew that the text that I would be working with would be this passage from Colossians. And I thought, why am I going over here? Why am I doing this? What's this all about? And as I was reading the words of Paul, it leapt out at me. God, sometimes takes his 2x4 and whaps me upside the face. Well, that was one of these times. This is what St. Paul writes. He says, my purpose, my ears perked up. He writes, my purpose, my reason is this, that they may be encouraged in heart and united in love, so that they may have the full riches of complete understanding, in order that they may know the mystery of God, namely Christ, in whom are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. And I thought, that's it. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm going over here to do, to dig in the dirt, is to reveal some of the mysteries of God. Archaeology is a lot of work. They told us that. I didn't believe them. They were absolutely right. When we got there, we were instructed on what not to do in an archaeological dig, and we were instructed in what to do. And then we went out to the site, had to carry our equipment up the tell, and once we got to the tell, I was blown away by two things. The first was how close everything in this Transjordan Valley is. I mean, you're staring across the river, and there's Israel right there. I mean, it's just everybody's living right on top of each other, and they've been doing that for centuries. The other thing that impressed me was the sheer size of Tel El-Hammam. The site of Jericho, this is 10 to 15 times bigger. It's like 10 football fields laid out all together. It was a huge, immense, enormous city. We started digging, and I was ready for a backhoe or something like that, and they gave me a patisha. It's this little tiny pick that moves about that much dirt. And so I'm scraping the dirt, and I scrape the dirt and I put it in a dustpan. And then I take the dustpan and I put it in a bucket, and I do that about 90 times, and then finally the bucket's filled up and some guy carries my bucket off. That's how we were moving dirt, and they sent Sherry and I out along with a supervisor by the name of Tom and a lady from Albuquerque, a Native American who's of the Navajo tribe named Esther. And we started digging our probe, and they were excited to send us out because the location where they sent us is a site that they had never been able to dig before because it was a banana field. A guy grows his bananas there, and this was an off year. He was letting his land go dormant for that 1 year. So we had this opportunity to go in and dig in this guy's banana field. And the reason they were so excited because it was located in the highest point of the widest area of the pinnacle spot of the lower tell. And they knew that there had to be something of significance there. And so we're digging and we're digging and we're digging, and pretty soon we start hitting rocks. And they weren't just rocks that we had been uncovering all the way along. They were rocks that were starting to show up to be kind of uniform. As a matter of fact, as we began to unearth more and more dirt, we discovered that these rocks were exactly 3 meters in width. Impressive, huh? And we kept digging and digging and digging, and nothing changed. They stayed the same width. As we were digging, along comes a world-renowned expert on the Temple Mount called Lane Rittmeyer. A lot of designs and drawings that you'll see in biblical books, he's done them. He is the foremost authority. He knows more about the history, the essence, the development of the Temple Mount in Israel. He knows what's underneath the Temple Mount. He's been places that other human beings have never, ever been. He's a world-renowned authority. Suddenly, his shadow is casting on our little tiny probe. And he gets out his tape measure, and he measures the foundation. And he says, the foundation size that you have right here is the size of a temple foundation. Suddenly we got kind of excited. We were digging a building that was of big significance. This thing could be 5 stories tall. Other people, they were digging, they were finding homes and kitchens and all kinds of stuff. We found a huge foundation for a building. And we kept digging and digging and digging.